I'm Ann LeClaire, and we're here with David Lea, owner of Cabrillo Farms, looking at yet more San Mateo County local produce, the produce that's as fresh as it gets. Now, David, you're a, third or fourth generation farmer in San Mateo County?
Yeah, I'm a third generation farmer here. The way the farm got started was my grandfather immigrated from Italy in the 1920s, and he settled in Colma, and my grandmother came out about a year later. And after about 1 year in Colma, they actually settled right here in this area, right here on these hills, and they grew a lot of cabbage, actually working for other farmers. And then, as the years progressed, he went into business himself, and then he had two sons, my father and my uncle, and ended up in the Kehoe subdivision down in Half Moon Bay, and that's where they started farming. They farmed artichokes and Brussels sprouts and cauliflower and English peas. Wow. And once my father got back from the service, he was in the Navy during the World War II, he started farming full-time with my grandfather. And then about in the 1960s, he ended up over here in this area. They vacated Kehoe subdivision and came over here in Pillar Point Bluffs, and then across here to this ranch here in the 1960s.
Wow.
And so he formed a partnership with Bruno and Guido Santini and formed Cabrillo Farms, and I was just in high school then. I went on to Chico State for 2 years and majored in agriculture. And when I came back, I worked for the county ag commissioner for 2 years.
Oh, I
but
didn't know that.
but my heart was always in farming. I always
Right.
wanted to come back. So after 2 years, I came and started working on the farm full time in the 1980s, and I've been here ever since.
So how has it changed? I'm sure you've seen it evolve quite a bit from growing up as a kid, being involved in it, and now being responsible for it all.
Yeah, it has changed quite a bit. I think dealing with the business end now has become more complicated, and we spend quite a bit more time in the office. A lot of rules and regulations to comply with, where years ago it was really the focus was out in the field and making sure we have a good crop. And certainly, that has to be a big part of it now, but still the business end, you can't let that slack up. So.
And what do you think that it's going to mean for future generations of farmers?
You have to be well educated now and a well-rounded businessman to come into farming. You certainly need the ability to grow good crops, but you have to have the ability to run a successful business and also to deal with the public and the concerns that public has about agriculture.
So David, how many acres do you have altogether? You have quite a bit of farmland.
Yeah, we farm 200 acres here. The main crop is Brussels sprouts. It's about 150 to 160 acres of Brussels sprouts, about 5 to 8 acres of artichokes, 30 acres of English peas, 10 acres of fava beans, and a few pumpkins.
Wow. Now, I've seen you during the season when you're working on the Brussels sprouts and processing them. How many pounds do you go through in a week or a month's time during the season? Seems like you're always at work with them.
Yeah, we get cut. Once we start harvesting in the 1st of September, we'll cut a good 20 ton a day, and probably throughout the year we'll harvest maybe, I'd say 16 to 1,800 tons a year of Brussels sprouts.
And then what happens? I know you take them out of the ground, and then you have a whole process they go through, right?
Yes.
Would you tell us about that?
Yeah, we have our own processing plant here on the farm, and so most of our Brussels sprouts, probably 95% go to the fresh market. Years ago, it used to go to the frozen food industry, but we've pretty much changed with the consumer wanting more fresh vegetables. That's really taken off, and it's been a benefit to the farmer. So we really concentrate on that. But we'll harvest 2 acres a day. We bring them into our plant where we size grade them and grade for blemishes and what have you. Put them in 25-pound boxes. Some of them will go down to Los Angeles and get repacked into bags, and those will go to Costco and Walmart. Wow. But we also sell quite a few ourselves here locally, and they'll go to some to the farmers markets, some to the terminal markets here in the Bay Area, and then get distributed to the chain stores. You can find our Brussels sprouts at Whole Foods is a big consumer of ours, and they've been a real good partner. Safeway has also, they take them. But by going to the terminal markets also, they get distributed to like Lenardi's and some of the local chain stores also.
Great, David. Now, we've looked a little bit at these artichokes. Are we able to take a look at some of your English peas that you have in the ground?
Sure.
So David, now we're over looking at all of the English peas, and you said it's a little early for them to be out, right?
Right. There's some early crops right now. Some of the other farmers are just getting started on picking English peas, but probably about another 2 to 3 weeks we'll have some peas. It's a very popular vegetable, you know, this time of year, early spring and throughout the summer. And you know, once we start picking these, there's a pretty good demand for that, especially on the fresh market. They're very popular at the farmers markets. We sell to them. My sister sells in Walnut Creek and Palo Alto. She's been going there quite a few years, but we also have them available at the Ferry Building Plaza up there in San Francisco and also in Pacifica.
Why do you think they're increasingly popular? You have any theories on that?
No, well, they're so sweet. I think once you start eating English peas that are fresh, it's pretty hard to go back to cooked
That
vegetables.
is true.
Yes.
They're a disease. I mean, a disease in a good way. You can't stop eating them, right?
Absolutely. And so people just actually crave them, you know. So we do have a good demand, like I was saying, and we sell quite a bit fresh. And sometimes we can't even pick enough or raise enough English peas, because the one drawback about English peas, you don't get a lot of production per acre as far as boxes per acre.
See.
So you have to plant quite a bit of your ranch to gather any large volume.
And so your volume of peas that you harvest is?
It's pretty consistent what I do with my rotation on my farm, but I've had some requests for you know, my farm to increase the production, but it's probably just not going to be easy to do right now.
Okay. May we look at the fava beans?
Sure.
I'm not sure how many people have actually seen a fava bean plant before. So David, now will you educate us about fava beans? I had never seen a fava bean plant before. I'm sure many viewers have not.
Right. Yeah, this is a young fava bean plant, and it's just starting to flower right now, as you can see. You know, it's got a little bit of ways to go yet, though. I don't know, maybe a month and a half or so. And it'll start putting out some small favas, and then we'll come through and pick it maybe two or three times. You know, fava beans are starting to become a little bit more popular in the Bay Area. You know, and I've got to give compliments to, I think, the chefs in the Bay Area right now, because they've really developed some nice recipes for fava beans, for English peas, and for Brussels sprouts. And I think that's really helped the fresh market here in the Bay Area.
So with a fava bean, for those who don't know, it's not a simple process to prepare them, but it's worth it, right? And so what do you have to do to them?
Yeah, well, it does come in a shell, so you have to shell them, and then also there's an outer shell on the fava bean. Some people will eat them or cook them with that, but other people will take the outer husk off once they get into the fava bean, take the outer husk off, and then it's a little bit more tender.
So do you think the cooking channel has affected a lot of what you produce, or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And like I say, I think that really goes to say with Brussels sprouts. I think they've done such a great job with the recipes. And the thing about Brussels sprouts too is that, you know, we've developed some varieties now that are more on the mild side. They're not as strong tasting as before.
I was just going to ask you that, because oftentimes people say, I hated Brussels sprouts as a kid, and then they try yours, and it's like night and day, right?
It is, yeah. No, they're definitely, I don't know if you could ever say a Brussels sprout is sweet, but they certainly don't have that bitter taste that we're used to years ago. And years ago, you know, it was just, you know, you'd boil them and it was bitter and it smelled up the kitchen and all that. Now you just don't get it, you know, because you don't get those odors and that taste anymore. And I've gone into restaurants and it always amazes me at the different recipes that they've come up with. And that goes with fava beans also, you know. To me now, on English peas, though, the only way to eat English peas is fresh. Just get them at them at your farmer's market and grab them fresh.
Exactly.
But fava beans and Brussels sprouts, look for the different recipes, and you got to, you know, make sure the public goes out and tries these again. I think they'll be satisfied.
Well, David, thank you so much for your time today. And I'm not sure, did we mention that you have a farm stand of your own out on Highway 1?
Yes, it's run by the farmer's daughter. It was one of the original partners' daughters years ago, Linda Santini. She's actually in charge of that and runs that herself, but it is located here. She's open through
so it is seasonal.
through pumpkin season and just on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Your setting is spectacular, and
Great.
so is your produce. Thank you, David.